Okay, you're on, Sanam.
So we're live? Ramesh?
Yes, we're live.
Okay, thank you. I'll just give it one more minute for people joining in. I can see the numbers going up for the participants. Okay, we'll get started. So good afternoon to everyone who's attending online, and thank you for making the time to attend this session. My name is Sanam. I am the Vice President for Human Resources for a company called NS BlueScope here in Malaysia. And my association for this event is through the MABC, the Malaysia Australia Business Council. Sorry about the online nature of this, but that's the world we're living in at the moment. So please bear with us from a technology perspective. If at any stage the connection breaks down or the audio breaks down for any of us, please let us know through comments or through coming up on the microphone, and happy to repeat the discussion topic. But again, welcome. Just a quick intro about the event itself. Every year, so MABC has a subcommittee which is called the Women in Business Subcommittee. It's led by Tracy. Tracy's online today as well, and Tracy's been leading this committee for at least the last 3 years that I've been associated with it. And under that committee, we try and do a number of events and programs through the year that are focused around gender diversity, upliftment in terms of dialogue, in terms of leadership, in terms of inclusion. And you know, there's several things that we do, including a mentoring program. And we just completed the mentoring program last year. It was a third round. And that mentoring program is about female leadership within Malaysia broadly, and Singapore included. And what we then planned as a subcommittee planning group is to kind of extend that mentoring program participants and leverage on their experiences within the workplace, and bring in some of those mentors and mentees who participated in that program, and use the International Women's Day Forum as a platform to progress this dialogue around diversity and gender and workplaces and inclusion. And very pleased to introduce our panelists. I've been given the difficult job of maneuvering the discussion today, but the more important thing is to hear from our 4 wonderful panelists, each one of them at different stages of their careers. But what we're looking for today is for them to share and reflect on their own journeys, whether that's corporate, whether that's leadership, whether that's people management, and we'll try and tap along the way into hurdles, into mechanisms, into hindrances that may still exist in our workplaces, more from a Malaysia context, that may prevent women in general, as the title goes, glass ceilings and sticky floors. So we're covering the whole spectrum of employment, the sticky floors being the entry part of the spectrum, and obviously the glass ceilings are more towards the leadership role. So whatever exists that can be further improved, that can be further reflected upon, to make our workplaces more gender balanced, more inclusive, and more safer and accessible for women. And again, if there are any men in the conversation here listening, all of us should take note as well. And if there's any nuggets of wisdom that come out, please feel free to use them in your workplaces. But more importantly, let's make it a candid discussion, which is very interactive. So I invite people to participate either through comments or through questions as we go along. We have a rough agenda of how we're going to go about it, but I want it to be not a data-driven session. It's more of a personal, reflective session where you know, we listen to the journeys, and then we try and make sense of how and you know, what we can change, impact, influence in our workplaces, all of us as corporate citizens and leaders. Okay, without further ado, I'll quickly go around the panel. I do have some profiles in front of me that please allow me to read out so that I don't miss any of the achievements. But I'll start with Janet. Janet, welcome, and thank you for being on the panel. Janet is passionate about diversity-related causes and was the first woman to helm the country managing director post in Accenture, Malaysia. A versatile leader, Janet relocated to Accenture China, Hong Kong office in 1995, where she led the enterprise business solutions group covering Greater China. 6 years later, she moved to Singapore to work with clients in oil and gas and utilities, returned to KL in 2003 to establish the Accenture Technology Solutions Group, which has now been reorganized as Accenture Technology, and was one of the largest workforce in Accenture Malaysia. Janet enjoys spending time with her daughter, learning about gaming and anime, and she's an avid collector of new tech gadgets, a big fan of Star Wars, and reads many science fiction fantasy books. So Janet, I'll stop there first, and again, welcome and thank you. Just your opening remarks about our topic today on glass ceilings and sticky floors, please.
Thank you, Sanam, and thank you for inviting me to this panel. I'm really looking forward to hearing from everyone on this interesting topic of glass ceiling and sticky floors. Actually, when I sort of broached this to a couple of my friends, some comments were, does glass ceiling still exist, right? And are they sticky floors really? And are sticky floors really an issue that women develop on their own rather than being, a situation? And I'm interested to hear from everyone here as well as we debate on this later. But I guess my only point is, as long as there is lack of diversity in our leadership, as long as there is lack of diversity in actually all areas of work that we do, there will always be glass ceiling. There will always be, and as also if there's expectation put on certain people, like for women to be certain place or do only certain things, there will always be sticky floors. So I think it still exists, and it's something that all of us, not just women, need to do something about. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Janet. Appreciate that. Just a bit of housekeeping. If you wish to speak, please turn on your mic, but otherwise just keep your mic on mute just so that we don't get any background noise or any echoes. We will be, Ramesh, if I can, or Carol yourself, get you to monitor the chat section, and please alert us to any comments that come through as we go. That'll be appreciated. Rosanita, I'm going to come to you next. Welcome again, and thank you for making the time. Rosanita, I worked closely with Rosanita during the mentoring session, and for one, I know that you have a very incredible journey coming from a small village in Kuantan, near Kuantan, and doing what you do right now. So I'm very fascinating. You have 12 years of experience in taxation and financial reporting in manufacturing industry. Currently the lead accountant for Linus Malaysia since 2013. Let me read a few other things about Rosanita. Started her career at Big Four accounting firm where she gained extensive audit experience from servicing clients in a wide range of industries. Member of the Malaysian Institute of Accountants since 2009. Is an Aboriginal from, sorry if I don't pronounce it right, but Semoberi tribe in Pahang. During her free time, Rosanita you may find her at Charioting Beach with a clamp and garbage bag as she volunteers for the Trash Hero charity most Saturdays. Incredible, and thank you and welcome. I'll just give you the mic now for any opening remarks, Rosanita.
Thank you, Sanam. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Honestly, I didn't realize the glass ceiling and the sticky floor is a big problem before I was invited at this forum, because I have been working with a lot of women throughout my career. As we all know, finance and accounting is female-dominated profession because we are more detail-oriented and organized. However, when I look back, it made me realize that although the audit and finance team members are mostly women, but a lot of the company's CFOs and audit partners are mostly men. And don't be surprised, even in the beauty industry now, a lot of the CEOs are males. You would have thought it will be females, right? So no matter where you are in the world, it seems that women have a tough time to make it to the top. In most cases, a lot of the women stuck at the glass ceiling when they have reached a certain point in the middle management level, and it prevents them from achieving the higher leadership goals. But there's another factor that mostly holding women back in their careers. It is ourselves, our mindset, the limitation that we put on ourselves and staying in the same old job we are safe and comfortable. For me personally, the sticky floor is much more of a problem than the glass ceiling. Until we unglue ourselves from that sticky floor, there's no way we will be able to start bumping into the glass ceiling. That's it.
Well said. We'll explore that in more detail in just a few minutes. Thank you, Rosanita. Pei-Ling, over to you now. Pei-Ling is an associate director with Australia and New Zealand Banking Group Limited, ANZ. She's part of the global subsidiaries group that is responsible for the overall relationship management of MNCs across various industries. Just going a bit more again in detail. Prior to your current role, Pei-Ling was in finance for ANZ, DBS, HSBC based in the UK and other organizations and has over 20 years of working experience, graduated from Nanyang Technological University with degree in accountancy. Welcome, Pei-Ling, and keen to hear your initial thoughts about today's event. Thank you.
Thanks, Sanam. And first of all, thanks to Malaysia-Australia Business Council for organizing this session. It's my pleasure to be here. And I also like to thank to everyone who has taken the time to join us in this discussion. First of all, I would like to just kind of share my views about the glass ceiling. So I think that the world today has actually made a lot of progress in ensuring that the glass ceiling are being shattered more and more. And I feel like a lot of corporations have actually recognized the importance of a gender equal, inclusive and diverse workforce. And I think we can see this in a number of the key women appointments be it in terms of the like the Prime Minister, in terms of President, the CEOs, in terms of the higher proportion of board seats. We are still not quite there like in terms of parity, but I think the trend is that it is improving. And even if I think about the banking sector where I'm from, I do observe like in recent years, there's a lot more women leaders who have been appointed as CEOs or senior C-suite leaders. And I think that is indeed an encouraging trend. And to Rosnita's point, actually, I do feel quite strongly about the sticky floors bit as well. Because primarily, I think, in a lot of societies and households, the women still are seen as taking the main taking on the main family responsibilities as the main caregivers, or even in terms of cleaning the house. So I think there's really that challenge that women has to balance between the family and the work life, and this is especially a lot more apparent when women have young children. And we see that even I observe that a lot of my friends have actually choose to exit the workforce after they have kids because their priorities have indeed changed. So I think this is one of the key sticky floors that I feel quite strongly about. And also to Rosnita's point, I think a lot of the sticky floor aspect in terms of the women in the workforce is really about us being in a comfort zone. Like we just want to do the same things. We are worried about taking risks, and we don't speak up enough. We just hope like people will take notice of what we are doing, and most of the time we actually don't feel comfortable about our achievement. Yeah, so I guess that's my views about the two key topics. Yeah.
Thank you, Pei-Ling. Okay, Aslin, lucky last. Aslin is the Urbanization Practice Manager for Asia at Lendlease, and part of the global team focused on accelerating connectivity of people and information on strategic business areas. Eslyn joined Lendlease in 2015 as Senior Design Manager for the Exchange, TRX Retail, where she manages the overall retail mall design across all design disciplines, as well as project managing the development intent expected from the JV partners for the development. Prior to her role in Lendlease, she worked as an architect at one of Malaysia's biggest and most recognized architectural firm, GDP, as well as in development roles in two other developer offices in Kuala Lumpur. That includes the developer for Desa Park City, Kuala Lumpur. Passion in placemaking brought her to Lendlease, and especially in a current role where a closer eye in value creation and placemaking are addressed at a global level in line with Lendlease's purpose. Together, they create value through places where communities thrive. So welcome, Eslyn, and keen to hear from yourself as well. Just opening remarks about the topic today.
Thank you, Sanam. So first of all, thank you MABC for having me today as a panelist, and I'm really honored to be part of the forum today to speak on a really important topic for women. And thank you also, Sanam, for the quick introduction earlier. I think a lot that has been said so far from the panelists really resonate well with me. If I may add my thoughts to it, a bit of a reflection on my career journey so far. I have been fortunate to have worked in a local company and also international company, and currently working in Lendlease, which is an international company, all of which are actually located in Malaysia. So hopefully I'm able to give as much context to Malaysia workplace culture. So in a few companies,
sorry, keep going. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So in a few companies I worked in, I have faced some level of glass ceiling actually. So I'm really happy to share that. And so a lot of the time in my career journey, I have feel the need to step up, to get out of my comfort zone. Just like some of the other panelists have mentioned, you know, feel the need to work harder, to work smarter, and we can talk about how we work smarter if there is opportunity on that. But like really to speak up more, to lean in, to raise your hand when there's opportunity, just to be at par. Just to be at par, thinking that there's a level of bias in that sense. So I feel that there's a need for awareness in oneself. So that's my own self, that I need to be aware of the need to step up. But then there's also a similarities that I observe in all of the companies I worked at, whether local or international, around the mindset. So I'm going back to Rosaneta's point around mindset and the wavelength of the perspective of the people in the workplace in Malaysia. So my view, my reflection on this is that there is a larger group that is less aware, and there's a smaller group actually that's more aware. And when I go deeper into this smaller group, this group has been in my career so far, helped me in enabling me to break the glass. Philosophically, these are the small group of people that philosophically have handed me a hammer or hold a chair for me to climb up and break that glass ceiling. So my take on this is 2 points as a quick reflection, is the awareness in oneself to step up, but also what I notice is the importance of support system within that smaller group around you that could be just your line manager or even peers equal to you. That doesn't sit in the minority. They can sometimes help you to get to the glass ceiling, help you break that glass. You probably need to do it yourself, in my experience, but you can have some level of support handing that hammer to you. That's my quick view as a start. So now.
Well, that's a perfect segue for me to start the discussion, and I'm gonna still stick with you, Eslyn, in terms of, you just mentioned about the smaller group and the bigger group, right? Yeah. So I'm assuming that the smaller group is both men and women included, right?
That's true.
Just keen to understand from your perspective, what are some of the key differences in attitudes or behaviors between the smaller and the larger group that differentiates them into these groups?
Actually,
obvious ones or intricate ones.
So it's a good point that you mentioned, is both of the gender, female and male, and that's exactly what I've experienced so far. This small group, when they are female, they tend to be the woman leader that have broke their own glass ceiling, and they have the interest to actually help others hand over the hammer back to another person to break their glass ceiling. So my view on this is that there's multi-layers of glass ceiling in one company. There's layers that you need to break to get to the sky as your limit. So on that note, the observation I have is around how you are able to connect well with that person. It's around the wavelength. It's around how you are able to have the same wavelength with that person. Because the likelihood is when you have the same wavelength with that person, there is a natural process of building relationship, of building trust. When you build that trust and relationship, then you support each other. When you support each other, from my experience so far, that support have gone a long way in helping one another to break each other's glass ceiling.
Yep. Janet, if I may come to you and just extending that theme a bit more, you've been in senior positions and leadership positions. Firstly, do you think the glass ceilings are slowly vanishing, or is it just that there's more, well, there's obviously increasing awareness because of all of these events and focus by corporates on gender diversity, but do you actually think it's making some meaningful difference in the actual progression of females? And then again, the group that, as Lynn mentioned, around the smaller group who helps others to bring along, how does one impact the other group, the larger group, in those leadership roles to bring along on the journey?
Okay, that's multifaceted question, so I'll try and
we'll go one by one.
One by one. So impact of glass ceiling and whether it's working or whether the perception is helping in terms of breaking the barriers. I think so. By labeling something, we are able to address it. We are able to look around it and see what are the issues and what are the actions that we can take. So labeling something helps in terms of identifying it. And I agree totally with Azlin. They are multifaceted in terms of glass ceiling and how high that ceiling is and whether it's it's breakable or not. And as leaders, so the second part is as the small group, people who have women who have either broken through the glass ceiling or men that are aware, right, and wants to help. It's very good. And what these people are doing in terms of supporting the women's advancement is very good. But how do they influence the rest, right? As I was thinking through this, why is IWD for women? Why do we celebrate IWD only for women and talk about glass ceiling? We know that we are touching it. We have broken it, but some of it cannot get through. Why don't we have IWD for leadership, for senior people to attend and understand the issues of glass ceiling and what we can do, and maybe lessons on how they could be better mentors to women, right? And when I say leadership, I'm not talking about men only. I'm talking about leadership in general, men and women, what they can do, and really is educational, and it's communication and it's education to all these issues that we're talking about. And I had a talk last week also for another organization about during IWD, and we talked a bit about, actually, are these women issues or are these really just organizational issues, right? For example, if we cannot hire women, enough women, or have a diverse workforce, then we actually don't have a women's issue, we have a talent issue, right? And if we do not have senior leadership that are diverse and have at least maybe 50% women, then we have actually a leadership issue. Because if our leadership is lopsided, we have blinkers on. We cannot see the total picture of issues that organization is facing. So none of these are women's issues. It's not women's fault, right? It's either a leadership issue or a organizational and a strategic issue. So all this needs to be informed, told, communicated, shared. And speaking about it only on IWD and preaching to the converted
Yeah, I understand.
You know, it's nice, rah, 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 but we need to do bigger than that and wider than that.
I read a research somewhere, and this is some years ago, and what it said was that organizations inherently are masculine concepts. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's what the research said. Any views on that? Is that breaking down as well in terms of the typical or masculinity aspect? Or did you find it in your career so far?
I don't define things by whether it's masculine or feminine, because I think that
what they were trying to what they were trying to refer to was the power balance in organizations and how they are run. They have a more masculine aspect to them inherently. Again, this is just research I'm quoting. This just reminded me because you said it's a leadership or an organizational issue.
I guess I don't know if that relates to your specific question, but in my mind is, if you're a leader, you tend to promote, recruit people that are similar to you, whether in thinking, in color, in gender, or whatever. So if you start off with more men, they will tend to recruit more men because they are more comfortable. You know what they're thinking, you kind of expect. So you take the less risky approach, and you sort of recruit more men, or you promote more men because you know how they think, right? Therefore, so like begets like kind of thing. And if it started off as, I guess, masculine in nature, it will progress to be more masculine in nature. I don't know if that answers your question specifically.
Okay, I was just very interested because I think you made a valid point, organizational and leadership issues, and that also, to me, puts a light on some of the biases we talk about in all our trainings and so forth. Pei Ling and Rosanita, you both talked about sticky flows, and you reckon, they're the tough ones to break away from. If I can, Rosanita, go to the fact that being an Indigenous woman, is that an even difficult task, or does that make it difficult, especially if we talk in a Malaysian context? Just coming from an Indigenous background puts another layer on those kind of biases, or is there a different? Are there different hurdles that you need to then go across, other than being facing the biases being a woman as well?
Yeah, there's a long way to what I am now. So maybe there's something that I can share on the sticky floor based on my personal experience. Honestly, I stepped my feet off the sticky floor for many times before. Even now, participate in this forum today, I had to push myself because I'm not really a talkative person. So you guys are quite lucky, because I rarely share my personal life stories to other people. So growing up, I always helped my parents with all sorts of work. One of it was working at the rubber farm. It was a really tough job, especially when I needed to carry the heavy bucket full of the rubber and accumulate it at the collecting area for sale. Not only with one hand, but sometimes, most of the time, two hands carrying the heavy bucket with a walking trip back and forth, up and down the hills. Words could not describe how exhausting that was. Sometimes I had to rush back from the rubber farm and chase the school bus for my afternoon school session. When I was 16 years old, I remember I told myself I didn't want to live like my mom, working so hard in the farm for the rest of my life. It wasn't easy because being a minority who live in the rural area, most of the people, including all of my siblings, they quit school around 11 to 15 years old. So the traditional thinking was girls do not need. Could you try? Sorry, my Siri. The traditional thinking was that the girls do not need to get to higher level of education because they will end up in the kitchen and look after the kids and family. I found it is unfair for the women because we have dreams, and then but the only way I could get out of it was through education. Hence, I set a dream that I want to be an accountant. Actually, I didn't even know what accountants do because 25 years ago, there was no accounting subject at the school during my time. And I didn't even have the access to the internet like now. So maybe last time I probably think that accountant, they work at the bank. So during my first semester at the university, I was really struggled with one of the subjects that was business mathematics. My lecturer even questioned me, how come I got offered for the accounting course when I wasn't good at maths? I remember I called my dad and I cried over the payphone at the hostel, my hostel foyer. I was thinking about quitting, but my dad told me it was too early to give up and just do my best. It's not the end of the world. You see, the fear and the struggles that we have always made us modify our ambition. But thank God I chose to stay and embrace my fears. Otherwise, you won't see me here. I was lucky enough that I had my dad as my biggest supporter in my life until the early phase of my career journey. And I was lucky also that I only needed to take the business math subject during the first semester throughout my diploma and degree. So don't be afraid. I shouldn't be afraid because even though I'm not good at math, I still can be an accountant if I excel in other main subjects such as financial and accounting, reporting. I believe a lot of leaders also, especially female leaders, had their own struggle and sacrifice to be what they are today. I think every one of us has a dream or even many dreams. Maybe your flaw is even stickier than mine. But remember, you have the option to step your feet off that sticky floor. Yeah, that's it.
Remarkable. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your personal journey as well. It's one of resilience as it is motivational. So thank you and appreciate that. Hey, Ling, you talked about families and the responsibilities and that keep women away and out of the workforce once they go. Is that changing? Are the workplaces and the leadership in those workplaces getting more inclusive around that? Or I'm talking more again in a Malaysia context. What do you feel are the top 3 or 4 challenges that women still face in that lower to middle management levels?
I think in the sense of the challenge around like women, especially like when have young children, I think one of it is that the organizations need to consider that flexibility when women have young kids, because it's really tough for women, to have it's a major milestone basically when they have young children. So your body changes, you got to deal with a young baby. So I think from that aspect, the organization might need to provide more support for these young ladies, be it in terms of the flexibility around the working hours, in terms of like taking a longer time away from the workforce, and even when they come back from the workforce, they will need the support around like managing their time, because it's really quite tough to just balance the whole young children and having that managing a balance between the career and the young kids. Yeah.
All right, Janet, 2 or 3 tips for women who are now ready to knock on that glass ceiling of senior leadership, personality-wise or skill-wise or confidence-wise. Just 2 or 3 quick nuggets if you can, please.
I would say that don't think of the glass ceiling, right? Think of what you want to achieve, right? Assume it's not there, because if you assume it's there, it places a certain obstacle in your path. So assume there's not there and then just reach for what you want to reach for. That's number 1. 2 is ask for help, right? Go find that mentors, if you will, right? Of their either characteristics, leadership, or position that you aspire to, and ask for them, get coaching, get mentorship, and go for it. And 3 is get your support structure in place, right? Certain times in your life when you're going to be reaching for the stars in terms of your career, you will need support from, as Pei Ling said, right? At home, get your husband, get your brother, your sister, your mother, get external help, hire whoever you need to hire, and do that. At one point when I was reaching for my career, I had a helper at home. I had someone to help me shop for groceries, and I have someone to help look after my baby, right? You sacrifice certain things, but you achieve certain things because that's the phase in your life that you are going to achieve. So assume there's no ceiling, get a mentor and get your support structure in place.
Great, thank you. Aslin, just a bit of an extension on that. This is through my experience in my organization, and we were trying to understand. We had an issue with, we were trying to recruit new employees, which were women, but we were finding we were losing them at equal pace within the first 12 months as well. And so it was a bit of a double whammy for us. And when we looked into a bit more of a detail, the amenities, basic amenities, were not in the right shape. And we felt, and well, not felt, we saw and we understood that there were behaviors within the workplace which were reflective of a community setup, which is men against women, and that power dynamic still existed, and women were not speaking up. And I'm assuming that's not an isolated case in our organization. So that speak up aspect of you know, what's coming up and what you experience in a workplace. Tell me about how can women, you know, get more comfortable in speaking up, and what do men and employers and in general and leaders need to do to make it a bit more you know, friendlier in terms of speaking up and comfortable and safe.
Thank you for that question, Sanam. It really resonated well with me, especially when I refer back to Pei Ling's point around, you know, women at a point in time would have, you know, grown a family and having to manage that and manage the expectation at office. And to Janet's point, how do we cope with that, get extra supports and whatnot. But before we get to all that, that flexibility that's that could be allowed and given by the office is critical. I think my experience a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, I was a project manager and I had just delivered my baby, and coming back to work was a struggle for me actually. But the projects got to go on and I needed to get back to site. And at that time, I must say there is a level of support that was given by my manager, by my colleague, by my team member that was reporting to me. And then at the same time, when we talk about speaking up, it's two-way street, I think. It's for me to speak up, to be comfortable, to be motivated to speak up, but also for others to help me speak up as well. So this is something that I have seen in my current office in Lendlease. We encourage each other to speak up. We speak to one another in the similar scenario that we are facing with each other. So some of us might have given birth 1 month different from one another. And so we tend to talk to each other. Have you spoken to your manager? How did that went? And so we even, to a point, when we're comfortable with one another, we're able to also increase the facilities within the office. And so this creates awareness back to the business, awareness back to the leadership team, that certain things that may not be enough, or, you know, so there is a point that the employee need to speak up, and the employer will react on it. And there is also a point that the employer proactively provide it also. So I think it's a balancing way that we need to be able to do this for each other. So in the culture that's set up in Lendlease, in my experience so far, it's been great to see how it has really proactively providing the flexibility, providing the additional support that it requires, mentally and even physically of the facilities. But at the same time, it's also allowing the employees to speak up and be heard of what is needed for them to be comfortable to come back to work. This way, the business is able to keep the woman in the company and increase the possibility of bringing them out into the leadership role.
Got it. Thank you. We've got a couple of questions. I'll just park them for a minute and then we'll open up for questions anyway. But I just want to dwell on the panelists' experience for another five minutes if I can. Pei-Ling, again, just on that thing around speak up, what is your experience, not directly, but as a leader in the business? What do you feel are organizations safe enough, providing safe enough platforms and cultures broadly for women to speak up if there are issues, whether that's behavioral, whether that's amenities, whether that's safety or accessibility?
Yeah, I think organizations these days are recognizing that it's really important about on this topic of diversity, equity, inclusion. So and you can see that in actually, a lot of companies are actually setting up KPIs for in terms of how they are tracking in this aspect. So I think, and because of that, there's this conscious effort for organizations to do more in this aspect, and then that's the only way that when you build that environment, then the women would feel supported and they would be encouraged to perform their roles to the fullest.
Rosanita, same question to you. Do you feel and again, you don't need to talk about your organization specifically, but do you feel with your colleagues and your networks, especially women, are they empowered and confident enough to speak up if there are issues, or are there hindrances or hurdles that still exist in that space?
Women are still not really speak up, but yeah, if I compare with Linus, we have a CEO we really support the gender equality, so we are given the opportunity to speak up.
What will change it for the better, Rosanita? One or two things. What kind of things can improve that?
I think it comes from within the women itself. They need to identify what they want from the organization. If the organization already provide all the necessary support and tools, but we still stick at our comfort zone, we will not achieve anything. Yeah.
Okay, I'll open up to the
one.
Yes,
can
sorry,
I just chime in with one comment?
Yes, please.
I think that as women leaders, and I speak to the participants as well as the panelists, right? As women leaders, we also need to identify and help the women speak up, right? If you are at a meeting and you feel that certain women are quiet, you may want to say, hey, so-and-so, Mary, do you have something to say? Amina, I saw you writing things down quite a fair bit. Do you have a point, right? So just sort of bring that out and help the conversation. I think it's something that we can do as leaders.
That reminded me of a point. I work in manufacturing sector, and about 3 years ago, when we were trying to get onto the journey of gender inclusion and participation in the workplaces, we started looking through our job descriptions for the jobs that we were advertising, and some of them being very factory, blue-collar kind of jobs. And we realized we hadn't reviewed our job descriptions in 15, 20 years, and a lot of the requirements in those were either redundant through automation and other programs, and were not really needed. And because we were advertising with all of those requirements, mostly women would opt out because they would think, I can't do this job, or this is the so we had to do that exercise, and that did help. So sometimes it's just going back to the basics as well, and just understanding, are we as an organization putting in hurdles which are not even needed for the job, which is excluding a group of people from applying, right? So that just reminded me. I'll open up to the guests and attendees as well. There's a few questions, but I would invite people to just come on the microphone, and if you want to turn your cameras on, it'll be great, and ask the panelists those questions. Aisha, you had the first one in there. Do you mind just coming on the microphone and / camera and asking the question, please? I think it's a very valid question. Aisha, are you there? Ramesh, can people join in the conversation? I'm just curious. Okay, I'll just, sorry, Ramesh, you there?
Yes, Sanam, go ahead.
Yeah, can participants jump on the microphone as well?
No, they usually have to come in through the Q&A if they have any questions.
As
Q&A
in
box.
the chat? Okay,
Yes.
all right, sorry, I'll have to read it out. Okay, Aisha, thank you, really valid question, and this is for the panel, entire panel. As more women rise to the top, how do you navigate the perception / fear that the wife is more successful than their partner? And is your partner willing to support and let you be the main breadwinner? Anyone from the panel, I invite to respond.
I'll take it first and start off the conversation. I think that the funny answer would be choose your partner correctly. But the proper answer would be that I think your partner would be glad, right, to have the burden or the pressures of us being the sole breadwinner or the sole successful breadwinner, and to be able to share that with you. I mean, I've spoken with quite a few men as well, and a number of them say that they are happy because men also has issues, right, with the pressures of being the sole breadwinner, the one that earns more and all that. So they too have pressures. And I think that if proper communication and relationship between partners, it can help to elevate some of these maybe misconceptions. And the other thing is, it's not as if it's going to be forever. In any relationship, there's going to be ups and downs. Ups when one spouse is successful, the other one takes a back seat. Then next cycle, the other partner is successful, someone else takes a back. So it's all about collaboration and working together, because jointly it is what you want to do, right? Is to set up a successful family unit or successful coupledom, right? So conversation, expectations, and I'll do this now, you do this later kind of thing would really help in setting that up.
Thanks, Janet. Any other perspectives from the panel?
I might add on from Janet. I think all that Janet has said is spot on from my headspace. I agree that like between myself and my husband, we understood that there are phases in life. Phases in life where one strive, and another one support, and similarly when the other one strive, the other one support. And I've spoken to many mentors in my career journey so far that have given me the similar feedback. A lot of women leaders that I've spoken to have given me the same feedback, just as to what Janet just spoke about. And so I think if we are blessed with a partner in our life that enable us to do our best at our job, at the same time do our best at home, that is ideal. If the question arises the question arises because that's not the case, then a good communication is again building relationship. So it's important not to just build relationship at the office, but it's even more important to build that relationship at home, to understand what each other wants to strive towards. And to Janet's point, the question suggests main breadwinner. I don't think there is such need to address the word main. I think it's just, and getting everyone to contribute and collaborate with each other. And I think it's important for the kids to see how both parents are actually setting the right role model for them to become the next generation of successful leaders.
Thank you. Peling or Rosanita, anything to add?
Yeah, I totally agree with the two of them. And just a point to make is, I think ultimately, for women, I think it's also important to know, exactly what they want to achieve in their career, because I feel like as women, climbs up the leadership ladder, there's actually a lot of sacrifices, a lot of trade-offs that one ultimately has to make as well. And some of these decisions might be a bit more personal, that definitely, the family would need to come in and discuss, if that is really what they can manage, as a family. Yeah.
Carol, can we please unmute Patricia? Patricia has a question. Patricia Young. All right, Patricia.
Hi, Sanam. Thanks.
Hey, no worries. Go for it.
Well, I believe that the glass ceiling syndrome and sticky floors, really, it's sort of a mindset, really. I'm listening to the panel speak, and in my own experience, I have had my fair share of glass ceilings, but never really had, made that stop me from breaking that barrier or stopping me from moving up the ladder. I myself work in an international school. I've met with all kinds of male leaders as well as female leaders. And as Janet said, I think one of the opportunities is to give women the opportunity to speak up. And I just wanted to know, are we women who have this sort of mindset about glass ceilings and sticky floors, are we shortchanging ourselves?
Expand that a bit more, the last comment about shortchanging, please. Patricia?
Say again, Sanam?
Just your last comment about shortchanging yourself. Do you mind just explaining that a bit more? Just what does that mean?
Yeah, because of our mindset as women, we tend to put barriers on ourselves. We tend to say, like we are the ones that raise families because we give birth to children, but that is not a limitation. I don't feel it as a limitation. I just feel it as a challenge for us to even be better and to show the opposite sex that we are just as good as them. So I'm just wondering, are we shortchanging ourselves when we have this sort of mindset about glass ceilings and sticky floors?
Okay, thank you. I'll once again open up for any Janet, Aislinn, Rosanita, Pei-Ling. I do feel, Patricia, thank you for that. My experience, and I'm not qualified obviously as being a male, but I do think the organizations and the leadership do play a part in empowering women to that level within the workplaces as well, because there can be organization where there certainly does, the biases and all sorts of other hurdles that time and again may knock down the confidence level in not just women, in men coming up as well, but predominantly women. So I'll just put that disclaimer on that and open it up to the panel for.
I can start.
Yes, please start. Please. Go ahead.
Aislinn, you go first.
I'm sorry, who? Me?
Aislinn, you go.
Okay. So I think it does exist, in one way or another. There are companies that are more profound than others. If we don't see it so often, that's great. There are scenarios that we see quite openly. But I thought I would reflect back to Janet's point, is that we strive toward what we want, suggesting the sky is the limit. Do not think too much about the glass ceiling, because then when you don't think too much of it and then you start to break it, actually philosophically, is really not even there for you to really break it, because you broke it without knowing it, in a sense. So I think that does exist to an extent. I think there are cases where women experience it much harder than others. but I also think it's us to step up our game first and foremost. It's us, it's our oneself to be aware and to manage our mindset, that as much as possible think that it doesn't exist. And then it gives awareness back to the business that this person doesn't even realize that we've drawn that line, because she just go up and up and up, and she just keep doing it and keep speaking up, keep pushing for it. So to a point that the company need to react on it. The company, even if they have sort of put a glass ceiling to it, have to open it up, because there is no other better candidate than that person who's striving towards it. I think that's my own personal view. Pei-Ling.
Thanks, Leslie. Yeah. Janet, you wanted to say something?
I think
Okay,
Pei-Ling wants to say something.
Pei-Ling, go for it. Sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, on that mindset topic, I just want to share an experience, personal experience about how I actually break my own mindset. So personally, I have been in finance or finance related field. So 3 years ago, there was an opportunity in a bank to move for a common role to be a relationship manager, and that's when I applied, and I just really wanted to broaden my perspective and knowledge, and to about what it takes to be a frontline to be in a frontline role. So and in that 4 months, you know, I get to experience new things, I discover and learn about new process. And shortly after, there was an opportunity for a permanent role, and that's when I decided to apply, and I got the role. So I think that the key thing is it's really important that women, I mean, not just women really, you know, but you know what, we continue to learn and adapt and to develop new skills, because the world is really changing and evolving quite rapidly. So we will need to actually, you know, just break a mindset that, you know, this is what I can or cannot do, but just to give yourself that opportunity to try to do something different. Yeah.
Thank you. Patricia, I'm going to come back to you before I move on to our next question. You tell us 1 or 2 things that you practice that you know others can also take a tip from, in terms of that confidence and you know, just going through.
Oh, I like to learn from my male counterparts. You know, I have a good, I'm blessed with a very good male boss. He's Canadian, and so his mindset is very different. I take a lot of learnings from him. The confidence level, I think it's one of the things women have to break. When we sit in meetings, I think one of the things we need to know is, before we go for meetings, you better know what you're bringing to the table. So don't go in and hoping for information to be fed. Now, I really enjoy Janet's session and what Janet has said. And in terms of building confidence, I think that's most important, because women, I believe, and I see that in my colleagues in the team I work with, that they kind of say, they might let the man talk, you know, we just listen. I don't take on that role at all. I like to be part of the conversation. I like to contribute. And most importantly for me, I like to be able to add value in every single conversation I have, whether it's with women, whether it's with men. So I think as women and as leaders, if we are leading a team, that's what we really need to bring: the confidence, the knowledge, and adding value to everything we do.
You just added value to our session as well, Patricia. So thank you so much for
Sanam, can I add on to what Patricia said, right? And it's something that I've been telling some of my mentees about, and it's nothing very. It's not so much about not so much the confidence even, and that's very important, right? But when you are at the table, when you are at the meeting and you are sitting at that table, take up space at that table, right? Because you are there for a reason. You are there because you are valued. So physically, and I'm saying physically, take up space. Don't go in there with your little notebook or your pencil, and then you sort of squish yourself between 2 big men, and then you sort of sit there with your legs crossed and your arms crossed, and then you try and find the space to scribble. If you go to the next meeting and you see how men sit and how women sit. Men will go in there, sprawl across their chair, legs akimbo, and then they are coffee, laptop, notebooks everywhere. And then the women are squished into this corner. Physically go take up space, because you deserve space at that table. You are invited to that table, so you deserve your seat. Take it up, and don't be don't shrink from it. So go there and take up space, right? And it's a very physical manifestation that, so in that meeting, people will see you as a part of the table and not as the person that sort of squeezed in between. Or a lot I see, take the second row seat. No, when you reach that room, sit at the table right in the middle, or right where it's visible, and do that. And that will really help in putting yourself forward.
Thank you. Agreed. Thanks, Patricia, once again. Carol, can we unmute Esma, please? Esma Abdullah. Hi, Esma.
Hi.
Hi, go for it, please.
Well, what Patricia shared in her presentation triggered me to write, my three questions. And I think I find that the focus of the discussion that I'm hearing, about women is very much based on the I suppose the glass ceiling and the sticky floors and how to make it and so on. But I think we need to examine the landscape of Malaysia, because I mentioned in my question that, we have to deal with male patriarchy. We are very hierarchical in this culture, and very masculine too. And I think these are issues that we have never bothered to explore. And I think if you are talking about men being sensitive and men being aware of their cultural biases, we really need to start from the home. And this is where, again, people say that it has to start with women. Women train their sons and their fathers or their husbands or whatever, So I think the discussion that I am finding now is very much on the surface. We have not really gone into the deep cultural issues. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that, Esma. Thank you. And any points to that?
I agree. Yeah, I agree with Asma, because I think it is important, our upbringing, what our parents teach us, and then how we are raised. We should stop telling the kids like engineer is only for men, and men can do this better than women. So yeah, just treat the kids equally, and then you just let the kids be curious on what they want to do, whether it's man, whether it's girl or boy. Yeah, just follow with the flow.
Yeah,
I would like to comment on this, Sanam, on my own experience. I'm an architect by profession. Before I jump into development and in my current role, when I first wanted to take up architecture, the first person I went to was to my dad, and I told my dad when I was in Form 4 in high school. I told my dad I am interested to be an architect, and he mentioned it. He paused, and I think he said, that's quite a man's field, but I think you can do it. That's what he said. In the first instant, he made it. He gave an awareness that is, a little bit inclined towards a man's field, but he went back and said, "You can go for it. Go for it. You can do it." And so that start. You were gonna say?
No, I was that just reminded me again, Asma. I work in a manufacturing organization, and for a long time we've never had women on our factory floors. Not just Malaysia, I'm talking about Australia as well, where I come from. And this is in Australia I'm going to talk about. We had the female toilets in the factories were used as stores. So the first time we recruited a female, they were looking for a toilet, and there were boxes everywhere. And this is where we're coming from. And again, talk about, masculinity in the Malaysian culture, I don't think, some of the Western countries are different as well. There may be different manifestations and levels of that. So Asma, you raise a very valid point. In Malaysia, I've seen, we operate in a semi-urban rural kind of a setting outside of KL in our factories. So we employ the women from the local villages, if you like, and they are very conscious of how they raise any behavioral issues, because they say they're going to go and face all of their male colleagues back in the community as well, and that is not easy for them, and that is a barrier we're trying to it's very hard for us to address, but we're gradually trying through focus groups and discussions. So Asma, fully noted, and thank you for raising that topical one. Probably this will lead to a subsequent panel discussion through MABC as well. So the deeper we go, the difficult questions will come and surface. Sorry, I'll just keep going through the, conscious of time, through the comments as well. Yen Jui, if we can unmute, please. All right, go for it, please. Yen. Sorry,
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go for it, please.
All right, okay, sorry, I had problem unmuting myself.
No worries.
Yeah, I think my question was fairly straightforward. And thank you, Janet. I think you picked it up quite quickly just now. Yeah, I think where my question is coming from is maybe it's a personal observation that,
sorry, we lost you there for a while.
Right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, please go.
Yeah, my question comes from a personal observation that, men, I mean, they like to coin this phrase, it's a man's world, So whether they know each other or they don't know each other from before, they tend to bind together at every level, not necessarily just at the senior leadership, but I'm looking at more at the senior leadership, where this observation of women already there are so few of us in senior leadership, but when they are up there, they tend to be a bit more working on an individual basis. So I just feel that, is there something more? Thank you, Janet. I think you have said you have addressed this a little bit earlier on bringing up, other women to be a bit more observant. Is there something more that we can do, or do you agree with me even?
Okay, I guess that's directed at me, so I will take a first step at it. Yeah, there are occasions, right, when you say attend some meetings or senior leadership meetings, and there's discussion around, oh, let's go for golf or something, or some, I know there are women golfers and as well as there are women smokers, but these are where conversations tend to happen. You go for a smoke break and they talk about certain things, or there's golf and all that. What I try to do also is when I was in the leadership team in my old firm, I would organize women leaders lunch, right? And talk about business, right? Talk about the work that we do, talk about challenges that we face. And then in the next strategic meeting, leadership meeting, we are in line, right? And we are focused and we know what we want to chase after. So then there is one voice. Even if there's less of the women than the men, but at least we are aligned and we are focused and we know what we want to achieve. And it's not always about the furthering women's agenda. It's about furthering the business and strategic agenda. But if we have a more coherent voice, it will be louder and it would make more impact, all right? So that's how we sort of help one another. And of course, at this women's meeting or women's lunch, you can also invite like-minded other leaders to help with the cause. So you slowly sort of build that camaraderie amongst the like-minded leaders, And then you will have a stronger voice when you go to all these business meetings or strategic meetings. So that's one way to do it as well. If you don't want to pick up golf or you don't want to pick up smoking, which I seriously am against, but that's something else that you could do. Start your own clique.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Penning, anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to add on to Janet as well around the what she say about that building that I suppose it's like that support network. I think personally, I think that's really important to me as well, to have that. And I'm actually very fortunate myself to have this good support network, be it with colleagues or my line managers or with my mentors, and actually both males and females, they have provided me with this support and career guidance throughout my career journey. And so yeah, I think that's really key as well, in terms of just establishing that. Yeah.
Rosnita, any comments?
I think, yeah, it is important to have the support within the organization. Me as a leader, myself, I want to continue lead my team or the other women in the organization by providing the mentorship for them to develop their skills, share my knowledge and experience so they can also reach their potential. It's like everyone must support each other. This will not be successful if only one person at the top.
Thank you. Thanks, Yenju. Carol, Sam Lee, if we can unmute, please, next. Hi, Sam.
Hi, hello.
Good day, hi.
Sorry.
Go for it.
All right, sure. I think my question are somewhat answered because all the panels spoke about the necessity of having males alive in the workplace. So probably I will just rephrase my questions.
Sure.
How can we have the male alliance events or effort to be more inclusive? You see, because sometimes I do feel or I've heard feedback that it could take a tone of more patriarchal. Sorry. Yeah. So how would the panel suggest on suggestions on this?
Eslyn, you want to start off with this?
Yeah, sure. I can reflect on a particular experience of mine, and I think it would be great if more men are doing it. My experience one time, I was reporting to an executive project manager, and what he did was he mentioned it to me that he had taken me as an equal representation of him, that we could split the tasks, even though he's given more authority to what he's doing, and I was mainly assisting, but actually he mentioned it to me himself that he had taken me as an equal representation. That has lifted up my spirit and my motivation to be at par with him, because that's really important, because then we start to work together and address challenges together in a way that has made me feel more stronger in my space, so we even played good cop, bad cop in addressing challenges, somewhat similar to how some parents does it at home with their kids, and that's how we manage it at work. And so it has built up that trust. And I think if men, if there's one thing that I can say in this space is, if more men are doing that and addressing their female colleague as an equal representation of them and giving more authority to what the task involved, I think that helps the woman to step up and address all the needs that they need to up their game. So to Janet's point, get the space in the table, lean in, speak up. You get that next round of motivation to do what you want to do. While you are aware of it already, it just strengthens that awareness and making you be more present in meetings and whatnot. That's my personal experience.
Thanks, Eslyn. Yeah. Any other panelists want to go with that? All right. Look, we'll keep going through. So Sam, thank you for your question. And again, that just adds another facet to the discussion. Zaida, Zaida has got a question. Carol, if you don't mind. Here we go. Hi, Zaida. Hello.
You, Zaida. Yes, hi. Hi. So I just wanted to ask the panelists, right? What would you advise your daughters? You know, and what would you tell your spouses how to support your daughters? Or
good question.
At least a conversation.
Thank you. All right, where do we start? Pei-Ling, you want to take a stab?
Actually, I have 3 sons. But I think, but even then, even though I have 3 sons, but I think it's, you know, what I actually try to do is, I do try to tell my boys that, you know, because sometimes they'll complain to me about, oh, the girls have, you know, I've not been scolded by the teachers, you know, there's favoritism even in school, things like that. But I think that what I try to do, like, I mean, it's important even, you know, as young boys, that they recognize that girls have it's going to be it's going to be an equal world, you know. There's nothing like, you know, like teachers will treat girls better, or, you know, teachers will treat boys better. So I try to, you know, let my boys know as well, like, to be respectful, you know, towards the girls, like, that, you know, that the friends that they have in school. So I think it's important to start when they are young, definitely. I'm not sure whether I answer your question, Zaida, but I guess from that perspective, and also back to the point about just about advice in general to girls or women, is that it's really, you know, to have that positive mindset and to have that resilient view, because sometimes, you know, when one door closes, you never know when the next door might open, and it might lead to a path that ultimately provides the opportunities for you to thrive, you know, be it in your education or in your career. Yeah. So yeah, that's just my personal thought. And I do want to have a daughter, actually, but I think it's too late.
I have 3 daughters.
All right, you what do you tell your 3 daughters?
My 2 elder girls, they are 18 and 17. So pre-COVID, when they were small, I used to bring them to work. I took them to site. When I was an architect, they would see me, to an extent, see me at work. And that, I think, gives them a bit of motivation, gives them a bit of an exposure, what's out there for them to take on a bit of a role model space. Recently, my eldest asked me, is it okay to be an introvert, Ibu? And I said, it's definitely okay. I'm a proud introvert. And so I think it's just a way of how we manage ourselves in determining what we want and how we, you know, switch on and switch off to an extent. So there's element to that. I do think that bring your kids to work is great. I'm learning through COVID now. My daughter, my toddler, the youngest, is 4 years old, are now seeing me every day at work doing presentation. And all she wants to do now is, I want to do presentation. So she keeps talking about wanting to do presentation, and she wants to wear the same like I wear, and start doing hand gestures. So I think
modeling, right?
Seeing it is believing it. And so that gives a bit of a impact to them.
I have a question for everyone, and including all of the attendees as well. So feel free to raise your hand and we'll unmute you. But Zaida, you've just planted a thought in my mind. But are we just talking here, if I can make an assumption, of a slightly more privileged class, and there exists a class? I don't want to make it a class thing, but I mean, we all are sufficiently privileged to have and try on that confidence, but there will be women, especially entering the workforce, who come from, like Rosanita shared, she came from a plantation, indigenous background, and that made it really hard. So is that, I'm assuming there's a huge part, there's a huge population that's coming from that. How how do we inculcate that confidence, into those upcoming, we're talking about women today, so we'll stick to women workers and workforce.
So if
So there
I
may
may,
be, sorry,
yeah.
just one second. So there may be cultural barriers to that. There may be, as someone Asma said before this, there may be patriarchal kind of barriers. So we may find in our kind of demographic slightly more easier to break away from it. Sorry, Zaida, you're going to say something.
Yes. Exactly what you're saying, because I work with Yayasan Amir. I mean, I'm with Yayasan Amir, and we work on public school transformation. And it's exactly that. A lot of our schools, we have 94 schools sponsored around the country. And a lot of our schools come from the B40 area, and they don't, they need role models, right? And they don't, their parents are, unfortunately, are happy for them to be in a certain space because the parents don't know more, right? So they need to open up their world, which is why it's important for schools, public schools, because that's the common factor more often than not. And that's why we need the public school teachers to be able to provide them role models, or at least the way we can support is, I've taken note of, is it Rosnita? Rosnita, to reach out to her actually for my Orang Asli schools, because you are such good role models to tell them that even though your parents that doesn't limit you. And especially in today's day and age where you have a lot of online learning, not getting to universities also is okay. You can be skilled and get education some other way. You just need to have that mindset and the will, but of course English also, because a lot of our courses are in English. So definitely that's where schools are, Sanam, in my small personal view.
No, fair point. And Janet, I'm going to give you this one. Just quick remarks on just on that demographic where there are more challenges than probably a more affluent person coming into the workforce who's grown up, as Aslin said, looking at her mum. But someone from a different demographic. How do we go out and support them, and how do we, as leaders and organizations, make sure that they're included as well?
Yeah, I agree with the fact that we need more role models, and to say that it is possible to break out of the stereotype and to break out from the mold that you're born with. Education plays such a large part in it. If you go look at all our Sekolah Rendah Kebangsaan textbooks, right? The examples that they use about men and women, who does what work, what role they play. There's a serious revamp, right? Like you revamp your job in scopes and everything for your factory workers. We need a serious revamp of some of our textbooks, right? The stereotypes that is displayed there is unbelievable. And they are also, I think organizations and companies also play a big role in the advertisements. Advertisements on the radio. It's always, Mom, I'm hungry, cook. Dad is coming back soon, whatever, buy this oil because it's so healthy, Mom. All right. So all these things, I roll my eyes when I hear it, and it sets up this whole stereotype, right? Yeah. So it's public communication, it's education, and there are roles we can play. For example, Teach for Malaysia is a organization that I admire a lot, and they will ask leaders from Malaysia to go and teach, right? Whether it's a 1 day or a couple of days, or to run leadership camps to the schools, the B40 schools, right? All of us can volunteer in that and help. And then when we teach, there we are showing and explaining the roles we play in society. MCO actually is very life-changing in a way, because now both mother and father are working at home. Right, you can now be the example, and the children can see that both mother and father are working equally hard, using technology, speaking business language, being assertive, right? This is the role model you play. But for the B40s, a bit more difficult, right? So then we have to really reach out to organizations, educationists, and that are helping the B40s. And then as women leaders, we can go and volunteer in some of these organizations.
Yeah. Rosanita, are you seeing more indigenous girls, women coming into the workforce and workplaces, or you reckon there's still challenges there?
I think nowadays is much more better than my time last time. Maybe my generation, I am one of the pioneer. Yeah, but nowadays I'm happy to see my niece, my nephews, they are all go to the university.
What are their so what's changing for, like, what is making it more possible for them? What has changed from you know, one or two things from your generation to this one that you're talking about?
I think I think the education, actually we have a lot of support from the government, and then it's just that we need to push ourselves to get the good education. And then I'm not sure whether I am probably one of the role model for them to get higher education. But I see there's improvement in the community. A lot of people are working outside the village area now. They work in the city. So yeah, it's good improvement. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Zaida. Thank you for raising that such a topical issue, and I think we, as in MABC and other organizations, we need to go deeper into that as well. I'm conscious of time, so what I will do is, anyone who's attending the panel, do you mind raising your hand? And if you have any other questions, because we've gone through the chat ones before we close off. Thanks, Emmeline, got that. Okay, look, I'll start wrapping up now. So I'll go across to my panelists, and just for quick closing comments about today, please. I'll start with Pei Ling. I'm coming to you first.
Yeah, I think just to sum up some of the conversations that we had, I think at the end of the day, I think my message to all the to the female leaders, upcoming female leaders and employees is that, you know, just be brave to step out of that comfort zone and to pursue what you have always wanted to achieve. And at the end of the day, you know, it takes a lot of hard work and determination, but hopefully it's towards something that you always wanted to do. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Rosanita?
Okay, if I were to give a piece of advice, nowadays, more opportunities are given to women to grow their career and skills. So most of the time, the opportunity doesn't come twice. So we have to always be proactive. If you can be anything if you put your mind into it. So good luck.
Well said. Thank you. Haslin?
I think it's I will share what my mentor once shared with me is around tenacity. I think we have the tenacity to keep going and, you know, keep doing our best. There's nothing that can stop us, you know, so as much as the more we talk about this, the more awareness we're giving, you know, then that gives a better future for everyone and for our future generation. So just keep going and keep doing our best, I think.
Tenacity is a good one. Thank you. Janet, your last words about today's forum.
Okay. I guess what I would ask is to think about what success means to you, right? Does success means top of your career, or success means a nice family life and healthy, happy children, right? Or a a level of career by ability to go on holidays and whatnot. So it does not have to be what the magazines, the articles and whatnot are telling you, that you have to reach for the top and be the top of your career. If that's not what success is for you, then don't do it, right? Don't listen to so many well-meaning advices from everything that you need to be all that you can be, right? You just need to decide what is good for you and then go for that one. And along the way, enjoy life, right? Take friendship, family, and enjoy all the things that life has to offer, because you don't have to be the best in everything. Just take it easy.
Perfect. On that philosophical note, firstly, thank you, Pei-Ling, Janet, Aslin, and Rosnita. Very candid discussions, and greatly appreciate some of the personal aspects that you shared with us as well. The reason and the purpose of this forum is not really to answer any burning questions, but it is to keep the dialogue alive around these very topical organizational aspects that all of us, especially in the corporate world, are furiously working on. The challenges, it's, diversity and gender are one of those things. Like culture, they are very broad topics, and you go 2 steps forwards and then you go 1 back again, and then you regroup and then you restart. And no answers and easy answers. There's levels and levels of complications stemming from cultures and upbringings. So there's a lot to deal with. So, by no means we wanted to address each and everything today, but the idea was to have an engaging, candid discussion, and I think we've achieved that. So thank you again for being so open. I will like to thank Ramesh, Carol, and Tracy, and the planning team in the Women in Business subcommittee. TP, if you are here, thank you to you as well for putting together and making all of this happen. And to the participants as well. Look, thank you so much for taking the time out. We will keep reading through the comments as well. But I think at MABC and in the Women and Business Subcommittee, we just remain committed to doing whatever we can to keep the dialogue and the discussion flowing. And very soon, hopefully, we'll be back with something other to take this forward. So look, thank you so much. I will close it at this point. Gladly, the technology has lived on and not interrupted us too much. So look, thank you again, and you have a good rest of the week. And thank you to all the panelists as well. I'll end the meeting here now. Take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.